These things all the same?
I know he has. Oh, and thanks.
Izzy, are you there?
Yeah.
You are there? Okay, good. So we're going to go through, forgive the public, it sounds like I'm talking to nobody, but we have a councilman calling in because he wants to make sure he's part of the historic vote that we're going to have. So Izzy, if you can hear me okay, we're going to go through the motions of what we're starting, and then the resolution will be the first one on the agenda. Sound good?
10-4.
Terrific. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming to this evening's meeting. I'd ask that we call the meeting to order, and I'd ask that everyone rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Harris, could you call the roll of members, please?
Mr. Valentine. Here. Ms. Craig.
Here.
Ms. Diaz.
Here.
Mr. Rivera.
Here.
Mr. Smith-Williams. Mr. Soto.
Here.
And President Reckon.
Here. Mr. Smith-Wato, it's a little silent here, but if you heard that, we just did a roll of members. Are you with us?
I am with you.
Terrific. All right, Mr. Smith-Wato is with us. If we could ask for a motion for the approval of the minutes for the July 9th, 2019 meeting.
Motion to approve?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Mr. Valentine. Aye. Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Rivera.
Aye.
Mr. Soto.
Aye.
President Reckon.
Aye. And Mr. Smith-Wato?
Aye.
Aye. I forgot we weren't at a committee meeting there for a minute. All right, let's move on to proclamations, honors, awards, and resolutions of recognition. The first on the agenda this evening is Council Resolution Number 36, 2019, changing the name of Lancaster Square to Ewell Plaza. Mr. Harris.
Yes, Mr. President. A resolution of council of the city of Lancaster honoring Olympic sprinter and late Lancaster resident Henry Norwood Barney Ewell with changing the name of Lancaster Square to Ewell Plaza.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Council comments? Before we move on to public comment, I just want to thank, there's a lot of people to thank, so I won't take the time to do all of that, but there were a lot of people that really worked hard to get this process moving forward. A lot of members of the public, a lot of members of the Barney Ewell Committee, and others that really worked hard to get this conversation started. I want to thank you for the diligence and the time you put into it. It certainly has made an impact, and it's exciting to be here right now this evening. So if we don't have any further council comments, I'd ask if there are members of the committee or others from the public that want to speak.
I speak to you tonight on behalf of the Barney Ewell Legacy Committee, Mr. Ron Ford, who couldn't be here tonight, Art Morris, Ken
Sorry,
Stout.
I don't want to interrupt. Can you just share your name and your
Yes,
address?
my name is Jeremiah Miller, and I'm a member of the Barney Ewell Legacy Committee. I'm also the coordinator for the McCaskey Alumni Association. And
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. And what a wonderful moment this is for Barney Ewell and for McCaskey High School, his alma mater. Out of respect for a full city council agenda, I'll be very brief, but tonight's decision is the right one, not just because Barney Ewell was the most famous runner ever from Lancaster, the most famous Lancaster resident in recent memory. It's right because there has never been a personality that Lancastrians loved more than Barney Ewell. And because there was never a city his swift legs took him to, be it Prague, Sydney, or London, that Mr. Ewell loved more than Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Thank you to the City Council, to the Mayor, to the Public Art Advisory Board, and to the many supporters for making this great Olympian the beacon of our great city. And I just ask the supporters of this effort to please raise your hand. Thank you all so much. This has been a community endeavor, and I'm joined by some members of Mr. Ewell's family, and I know his daughter would like to say a few words. Denise Ewell.
Absolutely. Good evening, ma'am. If you could just share your name and your address, that'd be great.
I'd like to say good evening and thank you for this opportunity. My name is Denise Ewell. I'm Barney Ewell's daughter. And giving respect and to the council president and members, I want to say that what my father showed and displayed his true character. We often think about character in many terms and phrases and expressions, but what my father exemplified was positive spirit and commitment. And he didn't have any strings attached. And everyone looks for that credit, that contract, and that highest bidder, especially in today's sports. But my dad demonstrated genuine passion and commitment. And that wasn't just on the field, that was off the field too. And not only did he represent that, he displayed that to family, friends far and near, and most of all, to this community, without being too proud and still remaining humble and down to earth, which sets a true example for everyone to admire and remember. And I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Good evening. Can you share your name and your address?
My name is Mrs. Mary Moore. I'm a representative on the 200 block of West Liberty.
Oh, I don't want to interrupt, but is this about the Barney Yule or is this
Oh,
about
no, it's
public
just to
comment?
make a comment.
Okay, we'll get to that point shortly.
Okay,
We're just not
sounds
quite
good.
there yet. Sorry to interrupt, but we'll get there shortly. Absolutely. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak on the Yule renaming? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Valentine.
Aye.
Ms. Gregg.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Rivera.
Aye.
Mr. Smith-Wayle.
Aye.
Mr. Soto.
Aye.
And President Reagan.
Aye. Congratulations to the committee. Mr. Miller, Congratulations.
We're going to do one without smoke flash and one also
Thank you. I'd like to say a few words real quick. I'd like to say, respectfully speaking, on behalf of the Yule family far and near, thank you. Sometimes less is more, you know? And in a moment like this, thank you for the passing of this wonderful and historical honor for my father, Barney Yule, and his legacy. Thank you so much again.
You are quite welcome. In case anybody's curious, the Yule Party is going to step outside to celebrate this event. So as they're leaving, it's not disrespectful. They have partying to do because they've worked a lot to get to this point. So congratulations and enjoy your evening. You certainly deserve it. Thank you. So we're going to give them no one step aside. Councilman Smith-Wayle, I know you're traveling right now. You are free to disconnect. Thank you for contributing and having your vote on records.
All right, thank you.
Have a great evening, Councilman.
Thank you.
We will move to the next item on the agenda. Several of these are very exciting this evening. We're having a great evening of things that are really, really important for what we do. Council Resolution number 38, 2019.
Resolution of Council of the City of Lancaster. S-467. Federal legislation to establish the Smithsonian National American Latino Museum on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Diaz.
How does our American history, Latino history, try to act and make sure we represent in our national capital and retelling the American history? On Wednesday, May 21st, 2019, our congressional champions on Capitol Hill reintroduced the National Museum of American Latino Act to establish a museum on the National Mall dedicated to honoring the contributions of Latinos throughout our nation and history. We are grateful to our bill sponsors and supporters, including Senator Bob Mendez from New Jersey, John Coronado from Texas, Representative Will Hord, and Jose Serrano from New Jersey. The Congressional Hispanic Caucus, written and activists and other Julicias Axe, an amazing group of bipartisan group of Congress to joining us in this fight to ensure Latino stories are preserved and celebrated on our national mall. Show your support today. Here's some easy ways to make big impact. Show your support by sharing these bills with your family, friends, and colleagues. Ask your representative to support the National American Latino Museum Act, those who contribute to Latino Act. And just briefly, I'd like to say that Bernard de Garza, the Spanish governor of Louisiana, was in 1977. Cuban nationalist Jose Martinez spent 4 years in New York City, where he wrote both English and Spanish language newspaper. Along with that, someone that we all know, Roberto Clemente, was the first Latino in professional baseball to reach 3,000 hits. He played 2 World Series, winning the MVP in 1971. The groundbreaker, Sonia Sotomayor, Superior Court of the United States. A Puerto Rican, Felicia Mendez, was a civil rights pioneer during the 1940s. And Honduras-born Virginia Guinea Montes became the first Latina to serve as a national officer of National Organization of Women. And someone that was also an astronaut, Elena Actoa, was the first Latina to go to space. I'm very excited to present this then to Ralphie.
Yeah, let's wait for the vote, but then be happy to let you present. Are there any comments from council or from the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Valentine.
Aye.
Ms. Gray.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Rivera.
Aye.
Mr. Sequedo.
He is disconnected.
Mr. Soto.
Aye.
President Reichenbach.
Aye. Congratulations, Councilwoman. You want to present the... Carry the big one.
This particular is a duplicate of the one that's going to be actually hung at the National Latino Museum in Washington, and that comes to fruition.
Thank you so much. Would you like to share a few words?
Yes, my name is Rafael Torres. I'm naturally born and raised here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, proud citizen of the city. And this for me is a great surprise for two reasons. First of all, I didn't know I was going to receive this. And second, because those of us who study history understand that this country was built by immigrants. And the Hispanics, or as they call them, some folks call them Latinos, we had a very big part in creating this, what we call today, United States of America. The first official European language established here in the United States of America was and will always continue to be Espanol. Espanol is the language of what unifies many of our Hispanic and Latino families. But within those languages, we also have adopted and assimilated many other languages. For instance, myself, I am the communications director, the public relations director for a Native American museum here in Lancaster called Manicato Taino Cultural Center. And our mission is to preserve the Native people's arts and language, culturally and historically speaking, here in the city of Lancaster. There are only 5 expositions where people can actually go visit and see historical artifacts, or Taino artifacts, which were the Native American people of the Caribbean. And you can see that here in Lancaster. It's one of Lancaster's best kept secrets. Councilman Diaz actually had a wonderful time visiting our center. It has been recognized by Smithsonian curators from the Smithsonian who have actually visited the center and said, wow, they were just astonished when they walked into this row home on Beaver Street, of all places here in the city, right? Beaver Street. Yes, it's there. And the neighborhood has embraced it. We, Manicato Taino Cultural Center, have embraced the neighborhood. We've adopted the block. We clean up the block once a month. And we're there focused to preserve and to teach our native ways. The same people who greeted the Europeans when they first came over, way before, 200 plus years before they even established here in the United States. And thank you, Councilman Diaz, thank you for the City Council for passing this very important historical support and the expressing that the National Museum be built in Washington, D.C. to recognize all of our Hispanic Latino contribution. Thank you to my Hispanic friends that came for this proclamation, this resolution, and thank you to everyone. Gracias.
Thank you. We'll move on to Council Resolution Number 40, 2019.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, expressing support for the principles of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and affirming that all people contribute to the diversity of and richness of civilizations and cultures. Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Diaz.
I wanted to first find out if Mr. Keaton Rod is here. So this resolution is basically, he requested it, that we recognize indigenous people from the United Nations. And this is why I'm basically presenting it for him in regards to the civilization and the culture that has come from Europe and also is here in America.
Thank you. Other council comments? I'll just say when this resolution came across my desk, it's always a good reminder that this country certainly had indigenous peoples and continues to have indigenous peoples and will always have indigenous peoples. And regardless of where history takes us or how far we go, the reality is there were people here, people existed here, and there were communities and civilizations and cultures. And, you know, we have a complex and difficult history when it comes to our indigenous peoples here in this country. So anytime we have the opportunity to make sure that we remind ourselves of that and that we continue to keep them in the forefront of our conversations as we go forward, I think it's a good thing. So I want to thank Councilor Diaz for pursuing this. If there are no other comments from council, any other comments from the public? Yes, sir. Come on up, please. If you can just share your name and your address, great.
Again, my name is Rafael Torres, and I am the Communications Director for a Native American museum here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, called Manicato Taino Cultural Center. I did ask my brother, Nicuari, to come up and say a few words, but he is a little bit emotional, and that's good. That's a good thing. United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. Today we have access to watch many good stories on our smartphones, but we also have access to look and see above and beyond our boundaries here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And today, as I speak, hundreds of thousands of acres of our Amazon jungle, who are inhabited by indigenous peoples, is being destroyed. Their leaders are being attacked, just as they were over 500 and some years ago in this hemisphere. It started in our native countries of Dominican Republic, Haiti, Cuba, Puerto Rico, and throughout Central and South America. The attack on indigenous people is real and still continues today in 2019. So it is very important to recognize our rights as people. We are the ones protecting the earth. We understand its importance for life, and we want to continue supporting our brothers and sisters, not only here in North America, in the United States of America, but throughout all of the Americas. We're all Native Americans. We're all Native people to these lands. So thank you, City Council, for making this resolution and making it heard loud and clear today in 2019 that we do support indigenous people and their rights. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
So if I can indulge council, I believe we already called for a vote on that resolution, correct? We did?
No, we not.
We did not? Okay. Mr. Harris?
Mr. Valentine.
Aye.
Ms. Gregg.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Rivera.
Aye.
Mr. Soto.
Aye.
President Reichenbach.
Aye. Before we move out of this area, I would ask council if it would be okay if I introduce the Neighbor of the Month, which wasn't on the agenda, but I certainly don't want to miss that. I believe Jess King is here. I saw her. There she is. So if you'd indulge me for a moment, we'd like to make sure we recognize our amazing neighbors in our community. So Jess, if you wouldn't mind, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Reichenbach. I'd like to invite Luis Gonzalez up to the front. So Luis Gonzalez is a resident in the first block of Chester Street, has been a longtime resident of the neighborhood, and everyone knows him. He's lived on the block for 40 years with his wife, Mary Jo, who's also in the back. His 93-year-old mom lives around the corner, and his grandson as well, who's back here, Tiberius. Luis maintains a community garden in the community on a lot he owns and encourages neighbors to plant garden beds and to harvest fresh foods. Michael actually gardens back there. He's always available to lend a helping hand to those in need, to share a story or a laugh, and to encourage everyone he meets. He's an incredible neighbor and citizen, and I'm proud to call him my friend and my neighbor. So congratulations, Luis. Thank you so much for all of you.
You sure?
Thank you. Thank you.
Can we do a quick picture? Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you to yourself and your wife and your family for being anchors for our communities. It's sincerely appreciated and it's everything for us. So thank you very much. So we'll move on to our first public comment period, which is reserved for citizens who've contacted the clerk prior to the meeting to request the opportunity to address City Council. I would ask that you limit the duration of your comment to 3 minutes. Mr. Harris, do we have anybody that called ahead this evening?
Yes, we do, Mr. President. Mary Moore is here.
Mr. Moore. Sorry again to interrupt you earlier. Just want to make sure you had the opportunity, so come on. Sure.
My name is Mary Moore. I live at 240 West Liberty. Because of what we want to discuss, I already had some paperwork so to be given to each one if we're allowed to give it to you. And I also have a petition from the 75% of our neighbors concerning what I will speak about. I give you a brief moment to read the first page. On the 200 block of West Liberty Street, before the date that's on this letter, there was no islands there. Once there were proposals for islands to be put there, Drogaris had a meeting with the mayor and the neighbors on our block to discuss the island. I stated that on cleaning day, there would be no parking. So he shook each of our hands and then gave us that letter, a generic letter that does not have an expiration date because the houses will always be there. We went from 31 spaces to 14 because of the islands. Recently, we were asked to pay $35 per vehicle to be in the parking lots per month, which means an extra $455 if you have one car, $910 if you got two cars, $1,365 monthly fee. Well, that's for the whole year. Well, when I say $455, $910, is what the fee would be for a whole year. The 200 block of West Liberty's response to the proposal, right now there are only 2 people on the block that receive the stickers, and that's because they already work at Liberty Place. So they were provided with the stickers. I personally took pictures for almost 2 weeks and recorded it. There's only been 4 cars that are in the lot, and they have 3 parking lots. So it made no sense to me that they would charge us $35 saying it was an inconvenience. On the second page it says due to their high costs and different bills that they have, they're giving the cost to us. Our proposal, number 1, is that since we were given a verbal statement that we could park on the days it's cleaning, we would like a written statement, because based on that letter, they have reneged on it and decided to not honor it. So we would definitely like a letter that would state that we are able on those days, on those Mondays, to park there. And because it's an issue for the time from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., we would consent to that, not being there from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we also would like a letter sent to City Council to make it more strength to it, because should someone else buy Liberty Place, our position will always be the same. We would need parking. Proposal number 2 is to remove the island that is in the middle of the street and get rid of the parallel parking on the block of West Liberty Street and provide parking on both sides. Our third proposal is to honor the original agreement to allow the property, neighbors to park there. A copy of the letter was given to the mayor along with the papers that you have. I also spoke to City Council. I do have this petition.
Thank you.
The petition was signed by 75% of the residents saying we will not pay. So the reason why I'm here is because with Smith Gall, he was able to handle it. When I spoke to Mayor Gray, former Mayor Gray, he was able to handle it. But so far, we're in the dark trying to find somewhere to park, so we're requesting help from City Council.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for sharing. And I know this is a conversation that we've had with the mayor and her chief staff, so we'll have a conversation. Feel free to reach out to my clerk if you'd like to follow up on it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Was there anybody else who called ahead, Mr. Harris?
No, there was not, Mr. President.
Thank you. We'll move on to reports requested by council. The only item in the agenda is the Love Your Block annual report. Shannon. Is this our last annual report?
Hello.
For me too.
Yes, exactly. So my name is Carl Patterson. I'm one of the AmeriCorps Vistas with Love Your Block. Michael's the other. And before we present our presentation, I would like to introduce to you Jasmine Mukala. She's a student, a high school student who will be going to Loyola University next year, or I guess this fall, right? That's exciting. Who performed some amazing lead research for us. The City of Lancaster is doing great things seeking lead remediation funding, and she presented some novel research that's not exactly what the lead remediation grants are seeking, so there's always more work, but I'll leave it to her. So.
Sure. Good evening. Thanks for coming.
Good evening. Hi, how are you?
Good.
So my name is Jasmine Cole. I'm here representing Lead in Lancaster. These are some findings that my friend Ray and I actually did back in June. We did them for our school, the Shipley schools. So Shipley School is a small school located in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania. We're a very service-oriented school. By the end of the 4 years we attend there, we have to have 3 service hours completed. On top of that, we do something called a senior service project, also known as an SSP, which I probably will refer to it that way in the rest of the presentation. The SSP, you're basically given a list of different service sites to go to for the next 2 weeks after your classes end between graduation. So I looked at the list and there was nothing really there that interest. They were all extremely interesting service sites, but I wanted to do something that was kind of towards the medical field. That's what I'm interested in. So that's what I did. I asked if I could work with my mom, Dr. Harriet O'Catch. She works at F&M. She's in the public health department and works in lead analysis. And I thought that was something interesting, and that's what I wanted to do. Like I said, it's based off of Dr. O'Catch's work in lead prevention in Lancaster. The intent that we had was to test playgrounds, elementary schools, and daycares in the Lancaster area. However, we sent a ton of letters out to these different sites, but we were unable to get any response. So the reality that what we did is we walked along the sidewalks and we tested trees that lined the sidewalks. We tested the base of each tree. We picked up the soil and then we took it back to the lab for analysis. So sampling, like I said, I did this with my friend Ray. Unfortunately, he's not able to be here because he had to report early to school for basketball in California. So yeah, I think he's 6 times. But yeah, so we tested different sites. The way we did it is we took 4 tablespoons of soil for the base of each tree, and actually from some community gardens here, this is where the picture's taken. We put it into a little baggie. For example, we'd say Queen Street, bag number 1, and the purpose of the numbers on each bag was to test if there was a gradient throughout the street. So we put them in a little bag, threw them in our backpacks. We just walked around Lancaster all day. So that's how we did our testing. So some of the highlights that we had was definitely the conversation with the community members. Everyone seemed very interested in what we were doing. They were all super kind. People would be driving by, they'd stop on the sidewalk, pull over, just ask what we were doing, ask who we were working for. They were very friendly, extremely welcoming. People would have conversations with us as they were sitting on their porches outside, because it can get kind of awkward when you're picking up dirt and putting it in a bag. So, and everyone was really, really nice and welcoming, so we really appreciated that. And we saw a lot of the Love Your Block initiative, just these posters everywhere, and we thought that was really cool, and that was something that we were really interested in because at my school we're kind of in a bubble, so it was nice to kind of branch out and see the different ways that you guys care for your community. that was really nice. So analysis, this is an XRF. It's a really expensive machine that tests for minerals and substances, and it's really cool. But it's also, we had to read a 289-page manual, so that kind of sucked. But it was really, really cool to use this machine, and now it's nice to kind of have this skill for like moving forward in case we ever need it. So the way we tested it is we put the bag of soil on the table. We would scan the bag of soil for, we scanned it 3 times, each bag 3 times each for 20 seconds, and we take the reading and put it into an Excel spreadsheet, and we'd average those 3 times, and then that would be the average would be the amount of soil that was in that tree. And then what we did is we took all the trees along that street, we took those averages and we averaged all of that, and that was the amount of lead that was on the street. So you'll see that in the next slide. So the EPA's limit for lead is 400 parts per million, so just keep this in mind as we move on to the next slide and we see the different averages. This is the analysis for lead in soils on Howard Ave block. As you see, there's the limit, and the great news is that you don't have very many streets that are over that 400 parts per million limit, which is really nice. However, South Queen and Church are over that limit. Strawberry is getting kind of close, so we may just want to watch for those areas. But yeah, this is just the analysis that we did, and like I said, this is the average of all the trees on that street. So this is a map that just shows how much rain I walked around Lancaster, so if you saw us. Yeah. But each of these dots represent one tree. Like I said, each tree was scanned 3 times, there was an average. And the color of those dots corresponds to the amount of lead in parts per million that there is. So there's a lot of heterogeneity. No tree, like some trees have less than 100 parts per million, and then they're right next to trees that has 1,000. So that's kind of confusing, and that's something that we may want to test for and see why that's happening. But yeah, as you can see, there's like a small section in the middle that has less than 100 for the 3 trees. And right next to it, there's a playground, so that's really good, and it shows that there's no lead in that area, which is nice to see. So, and then there's our King Elementary School, those 3 green dots, those are the community gardens we tested, so that's also really nice to show where you're growing your veggies. It's safe to do that. So. Some of the implications, these are just some jumping off points that you may want to look for if you're looking to remediate the lead issue in the soil. Some streets have higher levels of lead than recommended, like I said, South Queen and Church. That may be some of the areas you want to really focus on. Heterogeneity, again, different quantities of lead on the same street just basically means that if you're going to remediate one street, you can't use the exact same approach for all the trees because the trees have different lead levels. You're going to need to look at each tree specifically in the surrounding area. It may be necessary to make better assessments of the surrounding areas. Luckily, like I said, there was one playground that did not have that much lead around it, but that's just one. There could be more. So that's something you may want to look for because unfortunately we were not able to test different playgrounds and daycares for that. Ways to remediate the soil, that would be in the next slide. So definitely covering it with mulch or grass is the cheapest option, and that's an option that we noticed a lot around the city. There's actually part of the reason we weren't able to test public play areas because they were covered with sawdust or wood chips or mulch or grass, which is a really good way of preventing lead exposure to children because not only we all know kids eat dirt, sometimes it happens, you know. But what happens also is when the wind comes by, it picks up the lead on top of the soil, and that can be ingested by anyone, which is not great. So by covering it, it keeps it down and it protects everyone, keeps everyone safe. So also, a more expensive option would be excavating the soil completely, but that's may not be something we want to do, especially because it's so disruptive to the surrounding community, and you already have such a wonderful community. I don't think they disrupted the soil excavating, but yeah. A really great option, one of my personal favorites, planting sunflowers, it's aesthetically appealing, and also I feel like it could be turned into a fun day for the community. Maybe you could have a community day, plant some sunflowers, they could be a bouncy house for kids, an ice cream truck, food trucks, music. I feel like it would be a really fun time for everyone, and it just seems like it goes hand in hand with the Love Your Block initiative. So that may be something that you guys might like and consider doing. So, yeah. If you have any questions. Yeah, but there's the William Liquor, because my dad wanted me to tell you all that from the William Liquor. I was scared he's gonna come up here and do it himself, so I just had to get it. If you want to email me, please feel free to do so if you have any other questions. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Yes, sure.
And in regards to the different types of trees, is there any particular ones that will actually absorb better than versus others?
So as far as I know, there's no trees that would absorb. There's different types of flowers that can. I don't remember the specific ones, but I remember sunflowers were definitely the number one that could do that. But there are about 7 different types of flowers that can absorb, so there's also an option for that to have a nice variety of flowers. Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for your time, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. Hello. Are these our slides? Okay, cool. Sorry, back to the first one, my bad. So my name is Carl Patterson.
I'm Michael Prescott. You guys know us by now.
We are the two AmeriCorps Vistas who have been working on Levy Block in its first year. For those of you who may not know, Levy Block is a program coming up on its first birthday. September 4th will mark that day. September 3rd is our final day, and we have a little bit more details on that. The program is designed to connect neighborhood leaders and change makers to city resources and relationships. It's been an incredible privilege for us this year to work and serve the community down in the southeast neighborhood. In particular, our original target neighborhood was the Churchtown neighborhood and Howard Avenue, which the grant was originally written for. We would like to thank our partners especially. The High Foundation has pledged more funding for the program in its second year, and of course for SACA, Lancaster's Southeast Elm Street program. This funding partner was able to help us fund all of our initiatives this year instead. And so we've been able to stretch the original grant dollars that were written for the program in City Hall into the second year. So we've done a good amount of fundraising, and again, we have another slide on that later. And finally, of course, Tabor Community Services, who is our acting fiduciary. They'll be helping us dispense the funding in the second year, especially because we got to use a lot of SACA's dollars this year. As you heard from Jasmine, lead remediation is part of Levy Block, but it's not all that we do. Many of these mini grants that were applied to by resident leaders have been conducted over this summer, and we're excited to share with you some of their impact. So on Saturday, June 29th, I had an exciting time running around with the Churchtown Neighborhood Cleanup and Cookout. It was a partnership between the Churchtown Neighborhood Group, headed up by Aaron Dixon, Crossroads Mennonite Church in Rivers Edge. They had over 30 volunteers go throughout the Churchtown neighborhood cleaning up trash and litter on the streetscape, and are already a partner through the Adopt a Block program. All of them are. They removed over 100 pounds of trash and had an exciting game. I learned of this game that day. It's called 9 Square, and there's a person in the middle who's the king who tries to get everybody else out. It's a riot and absolutely fun. So it was an incredible way to celebrate after a day of cleaning up on an incredibly hot 88 or 89 degree day with a neighborhood cookout and party. This was also the incredible thunderstorm that chased me on the way home. Some more photos. They had a bounce house, you know. One of our resident leaders on a separate grant, Rayvon, is in this photo, and also in the back right over here. Thank you, Rayvon. And of course, Rick Rudder, the Mennonite, Crossroads Mennonite pastor up on Church and Duke, as in this other photo, leading these great energetic youth around the neighborhood. On the 500 block of Locust Street, Rivers Edge Fellowship, Rayvon's church, helped repaint exterior door and window trim on houses, adopted 3 blocks around the Churchtown neighborhood, have installed 2 street cans, similar to the ones and latched onto the order by Lancaster City Alliance. Thank you, Lancaster City Alliance. And adopting them to help remediate litter on the street. They also have installed one dog waste station. Dog waste is a classic issue in our neighborhoods and one that can be remediated if we have the resources needed to help owners be responsible. Again, photos of a cleanup around the church. And this is also the location of that party earlier. A great demonstration of the relationships that have formed between these different churches and neighborhood groups. On the 500 block of North Street, the Churchtown Neighborhood Group, headed up by Erin Dixon, as seen in this photo on the right, and of course the mayor with her, who was helping me scrape and paint the porch. On Saturday, July 13th, again, another, I think, 94-degree day that day. 25 volunteers, all neighbors from the block, and that number actually should be over 35 because there was this incredible, apparently her son had a sleepover the night before, and so there were 8 extra volunteers that morning to help out on the street, which was a great way to show Erin's commitment, her family's commitment to the Churchtown neighborhood, being the granddaughter of Nelson Polite Sr., longstanding city councilman and president. And it was an incredible day because some neighbors came out of the woodwork completely and worked on their properties, inspired by Erin's work. They painted stairs, railing, and porches on 5 separate houses, gave out new trash toters to the neighbors, and cleaned up all the weeds on the 500 block of North Street, which was incredible and, again, must have been really awful underneath the hot sun. In the fall, Erin Dixon, they'll be leveraging some VOTEC volunteers to do more painting on the facades of the houses. And some more photos of them. This property right across the street, actually, I just noticed the other day while I was walking, has redone their pavement, which is amazing and a completely private initiative. So it's been really cool to see this block be activated by the program, but also by the leadership of these neighbors, right? That's what these projects are all about. They're resident-led projects and realized by residents themselves.
So there's been quite a few projects going on. So on the 400 block of Atlantic, there was a project led by Edna Ortiz and her neighbors. They were also partnering with the Mix, who's right across the street there on North Street, and a church that just moved into that building called Branch and Vine, who pretty jumped in and just trying to support what's already happening by those who live there. So they had a sort of kickoff event where they were putting out some planches and window boxes, getting neighbors out, telling them what's going on, and what they sort of envision for the future. Edna and her neighbors have already adopted that block. We helped them sign up for that, which is something that we've just really been pushing this year because it's a way for neighbors to just have that sort of first step of people who already care but really want to take ownership and connect them to resources that can help them do that. So yeah, it was Saturday, July 27th. They did these planches and window boxes, and then they plan on August 24th, which I think is another Saturday, to do some more railing repairs and painting some porches and stairs, fixing some things, but really trying to get neighbors involved. Edna's been someone who's really been a voice for that street, so we're excited to support her. So just people came out and just were getting those planches going. So San Juan Plaza was another project. So this is a great community organization in the neighborhood that provides a lot of services. And so we really were excited to partner with them. Their signage was looking pretty dire. And it was a project that had been in the works for a long time, but it had struggled to find funding and partners to make it happen. So it was a really good fit and connection there. And they had all sorts of, they have a lot of connections throughout the community already, so it was easy for them to bring in some volunteers from the community, but also from outside the city and other sort of neighborhoods within. So they had over 25 people. And we were, sort of part of the project was that we had to, or the program, was that we had to collect metrics on each project. So catching up with people, like how many people came, how long did they come. So it's not just that we're bringing these numbers from anywhere, but it's something that's really interesting to see how many people have been involved. We also adopted the block, so they'll be out on, I think it's Locust Street, the 100 block of Locust, they're partnering with a halfway house there, which is another cool partnership to just keep that clean and just taking ownership of where they are, knocking on doors, letting people know about it. So they also put out some new plants, mulch, planters, repainted the whole fence along that street on the 400 block of line, and put 2 new signs and a new street trash can as well. So here's some volunteers that came out. There's the sign looking colorful and fun, really reflecting the community, and some beautiful plants as well. And the last project that's happened so far, so on the No 100 block of Howard, as the residents call it, I try to call it the 0 block at the start, but they were having none of that. So the No 100 block of Howard Avenue. So on August 8th, again, it was like a project to get people involved and interested. So planters, flowers, and people really came out. It actually rained that evening, so they jumped to it before I could get there. But they had about 22 people come out. Everyone, so many people from the houses on that street were out just gathering around, trying to get flowers they liked, interacting really well. So Valerie Bradley and Jennifer Powell were leading this. I'm sure you've seen a bit of Valerie around. She's been really plugging in. She's in the Neighborhood Leaders Academy as well. And she has more project ideas coming up. So the next slide. So yeah, people were out. They also put 2 street trash cans, which they've adopted. So everyone who got these trash cans have adopted them, committed to taking the trash out every week, replacing the bag, and really taking ownership for the cleanliness of where they live.
We have one project still in the works, the Politeway Neighborhood Mural Update for you. The Mix is leading this project. As many of you probably know, putting on a mural project that's depicting a long-standing African-American citizen and incredibly influential man and family takes a lot of work and engagement with the community in order to make sure that it's a mural that's well cared for, respected, and something that the community is very excited to rally behind. And so through a partnership with Millersville, the South Central Partners, great pun in there, they'll be working on setting up an artist in residency to guide the project. I have had the incredibly exciting privilege of digging around in the basement of the 540 North Street Polite Family Home, going through trunks of primary source documents and materials to sort through. It's going to be an incredible project, and I'm certain that an artist and historian working with a bunch of youth on a mural depicting the family done right is going to be absolutely amazing and a phenomenal installation on the block. Also, today, very excitingly, we have opened up our fall round of grant applications. So we opened up our first round on February 14th and gave out about 45 days for applications to come through and be finalized, and now we'll do a similar thing. We just opened them today, as I said, and we'll have them open until September 30th. We are introducing a second application. Thanks to our funding partners, we were going to be able to expand the impact, which is amazing. The original mini grant focusing on the trash and simple facade repairs will still be available to neighbors who are living inside of the larger focus area as well, another exciting enhancement. But we've also created Neighborhoods Parks Grant. Not just specifically focused on grants, and I'll show you the maps in the next 2 slides, but engaging the community around green spaces in general. Something beautiful about these grants themselves and the projects is that they're resident-led, so they're very open-ended, and they can be whatever it is that a resident wants to see in their neighborhood. And as I mentioned, the focus area of the city to open to apply for the grant has been expanded through different decisions made, and also in understanding our peer cities. So Levy Block in Lancaster is one of 10 cities across the eastern United States who are working on this project. We're talking about Newark, right? We're talking about Richmond, large cities with larger target areas, and so we've been challenged to address and work on a larger target area, which is good and will totally be manageable. This is the extended area. So We have included the South Central Beaver Street neighborhoods, as well as the rest of the Southeast at large. The original boundaries were along Howard Avenue, which is the street south of Church Street, and the Churchtown neighborhood, which is there bordered by Duke, Queen, Church, and Strawberry. Next slide, please. This is a slide emphasizing just that. So Michael dragged me out in 95-degree weather for 3 hours to take photos of the different parks in the Southeast, which was, again, an incredible act of Vista service. And what we want to emphasize with this grant is that it's not just on neighborhood parks. You know, there's a schedule within City Hall on working and addressing the parks. But we want this, you know, and this grant is intended for communities to be adopting the spaces themselves. You know, creating activation events, programming around the parks. We're very excited, and Michael will share about a specific park that's got a project coming up this, just in a week and a half, yeah. Saturday, yeah, this is Saturday, that's exciting. But also, you know, just to demonstrate that there are many parks in the Southeast, but also many community spaces represented by the small white dots in between the larger red dots. And those can all be adopted, right? These are all spaces that could potentially see a community adopting them and creating something new there. And that's what we want this to be open to.
So yeah, this Saturday is going to be sort of a kickoff project day for this new grant round. So it really came out of discussions with a resident, Kirsten Krimmel, who was part of the Neighborhood Leaders Academy. Part of that process was that they got to do or propose a project in their neighborhood. And she proposed really doing some sort of engagement activities or programming at this park down on the 700 block of Beaver. So it's about trying to get the community involved, trying to find out what they want, which can hopefully in the future also help the city know what improvements to make when there's, you know, bigger dollars available. So that came forward. Millsy knew of WGAL, which wanted to do a neighborhood sort of giving back project as part of their outreach and just caring about the community. And also Donna Jessup, who heads up the parks, really was excited about also helping out in the community. So it's a really cool coming together of residents, some private business help, and then the city as well coming alongside, trying to bring some ideas to life. And Kirsten and Zyra, who actually works in our department but lives on South Queen Street, have been out there knocking on doors all the time, getting people out. I think they gave out 200 flyers last week to let people know about this event. They're going to have a party the next day, just to sort of show what's been done. They're going to be involved that day as well. So some of the things that are happening, there's going to be some picnic tables, because the residents were saying that there wasn't really anywhere to sit and enjoy being out there. And with that, 2 girls as well, so they can have a nice picnic in the park. There's a new water fountain, because there wasn't one at present time, a dog waste station. And just, the city has had issues at this park in the past. But a cool thing about this is with the residents, with Kirsten and Zyra and others involved, when something, I think some kids were messing around with the dog waste stations, which have already been installed a few days ago. They went out and they were talking to them already, so it's like that engagement, like, why are you doing this? This is why they're here. And that really helps things to sort of stay and be maintained in a good way. They're redoing the softball diamond, planting some trees. It's really not very shaded in the middle of the day there. And then the next day they're going to have a party. Just to bring the neighbors out, and they have vision to do a mural on this building that you can see right behind that sign that has some blank walls, really brighten that up, bring some identity to it, some life. So we're excited to see what comes of that event and just what might come out of that. Oh, next slide, please. So this year's been a good year, a busy year, a lot going on, and we've really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed working with you all. Here's a little bit of a summary of the things that we've been able to see happen. We've been able to connect and network with over 50 different organizations, a lot in the Southeast, but all over the city and county. We've been able to, a lot with Millsy's great leadership, leverage over $50,000 of extra funding and in-kind donations that have been given to individual projects or the program as a whole, which we're excited about, just seeing what the residents are doing and people getting excited about that and just wanting to be a part of that. Over 1,300 volunteer hours given by people, just their time, their free time, just giving it to these projects and different things that we've been involved in. Giving up the thing that's most valuable to us all the time. Over 250 volunteers have been part of it. There's been 8 completed projects, and we've seen 25 blocks adopted through me and Carl's efforts just reaching out, letting people know about that program. And over 2,000 pounds of trash collected by volunteers. So we just wanted to show what's been able to happen. We're already excited for the next year. Sadly, we aren't here, but we know greater things are to come, and just sort of starting things to move in a good direction.
Yes, as Michael alludes to, there will be a Vista switcheroo. We as Vistas in the AmeriCorps program serve for a year, targeting some aspect of poverty in whatever city we're in. It's a program that is all over the United States and is like a in-house Peace Corps. Our final day is September 3rd, and the new Vistas will be starting that day. Their names are Renee and Christian, and they will be introducing themselves to you on September 10th. I've scheduled an exciting 3 weeks of onboarding meetings to hand off all of these relationships and program knowledge. So these Vistas will need your support, especially. I'm excited for them to be here. They seem like they will be excellent replacements, and I have intense confidence in us replacing ourselves with people who will do a better job than us. So, with that, we would like to say thank you. As I mentioned, the AmeriCorps Vista year is a year of service. We are paid a stipend on the poverty level of the city we're in, and the point is to be building capacity in a neighborhood that otherwise is struggling and needs it. I would like to present as a gift to the city my grandmother's work. Her name is Charlene Parker Patterson, and she is an amazing woman who has been an incredible role model for me for my entire life, and also a fantastic quilter. So, as a gift to the city of Lancaster, to Millsy, the mayor, Jess, everybody. She said, "Oh, absolutely."
No, you can just, yeah.
Sorry, yeah, I guess you guys can see, right? And she was very modest. She did this thing in like 2 days. She's incredible. I have 3 of her quilts on my bed. My grandmother keeps me warm. She's great. I love her.
Yeah, just add my thanks. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for having us come every quarter just to see what's been going on and adding just your notes of support and coming out when you can. Please continue to do so. We're excited for what can happen through this program, and spread the word. So the new round has opened up. If you know people that would be interested, and maybe people that don't know anything about it yet, please let people know and point them our way, and then we'll point them to the next business.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Millsy, before you guys walk away.
Keep it brief. Good evening, Council. I just wanted to thank Carl and Michael for their incredible work. I've had the pleasure of working with Carl and Michael for the last year, and as we began developing an entirely new department here in City Hall, we also launched a new program through Love Your Block. Carl and Michael led resident engagement efforts and mini grant projects that you just all heard about, right? Pretty incredible work. They have brought so much energy, enthusiasm, and hard work to our team, and not to mention creativity, innovative new ideas for approaching the work and community engagement. We thank you both for your commitment, dedication, and to serving our community, and we wish you the best. Mayor Sirachi couldn't be here this evening, but she wanted to present you with a certificate of appreciation. I gotta grab my camera.
Michael? This is presented to you for your AmeriCorps service to the city of Lancaster and the Love Your Block program. Thank you.
Not that Just as a key city engineer, but could I get a shot at the book? Just two
Yeah.
Sure.
We can drop that out in post-production.
And I just want to personally thank you both. I've had the opportunity to get to know you a little bit, and it's certainly an awesome feeling to see the smiles and the professionalism that both of you brought, and the opportunity anytime I walked in to have a conversation with me, to pull me aside, to fill me in on what you were doing or allow me to ask questions. I really appreciated that. It was really cool. And it means a lot to have an office of people who are willing to come out and talk to you. And you guys did that every time over the course of an entire year. So I'm glad I got a chance to know you guys, and good luck on your future endeavors. You guys were awesome. Thank you. You appreciate it. So we will move on to reports of committees of council meetings held on August 5th, 2019. We'll start with the Public Safety Committee with Councilor Soto.
Thank you, Council President. The Public Safety Committee met on August 5th. There were 2 items on the agenda, a council resolution number 37 and administration resolution number 42. Resolution number 37, adopting the city's 2019 emergency operations plan. The operations plan establishes the doctrine and principles for how the city will operate during an emergency. The plan includes policies, procedures for reaching a natural for reacting to a national disaster, accidents, acts of terrorism, and other significant events. The scope of the plan extends from pre-incident preparedness to recovery. It will serve as the base plan for which specific incident plans will be related. The plan is also aligned with the county's emergency plan. Resolution number 52, authorizing the application to U.S. Department of Justice for the fiscal year 2019 Ryan Justice Assistance Grant. The grant is an annual grant that we apply for and receive. This year's grant will be for $47,825. The grant will be used for handling software and 6 desktop computers for patrol officers. 3% of the grant must be allocated for a uniform crime reporting compliance. The software will allow police to recover digital data from cell phones for criminal investigation. I also want to add that the software for searching cell phones will not run afoul of the Fourth Amendment protection against unlawful seize and seizure, since searches will require a court order. That's all, President.
Thank you. Move on to Public Works Committee, Councilor Rivera.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee heard 3 resolutions which are on the agenda tonight. Obviously, the resolution number 36, the renaming to Ewell Plaza. Also, resolution number 39, authorizing the winter services agreement with the State Department of Transportation. And resolution number 41, authorizing the request for multimodal transportation fund grant. We'll talk more in depth about those when they come up on the agenda. That's all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Move on to Economic Development Committee, Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had 1 item on the agenda at a committee meeting, and it was resolution number 34, 2019, prohibiting video gaming terminals within the city of Lancaster. And that will be coming up on the agenda a little later.
Thank you. Finance Committee, Councilor Valentine.
Thank you, Mr. President.
During last week's meeting of the Finance Committee, we discussed two items. First, Administration Resolution Number 35, 2019, which authorizes sale of the former City Police Forensic Evidence Van to East Lampeter Township. And then we discussed the authorization needed for borrowing $9 million for fire station construction with a bank note, which is Administration Bill Number 14, 2019. Both items were on this evening's agenda with a vote required for Resolution Number 35 and first reading for Bill Number 14. In addition, Mr. President, as you're aware, the city is self-insured for workers' compensation costs. Every year, funds to pay workers' compensation claims are included in the individual department budgets. But those claims are paid from the administrative services budget. So each quarter, we shift money from the departments where those injured workers have made claims to the administrative services budget to cover the costs. For the second quarter of the year, workers' comp claims were made by police officers and stormwater management workers. A total of $25,896.12 is being moved from those department budgets to administrative services. Because this money is being moved between departments, this requires City Council approval. So I make a motion to approve the second quarter workers' compensation transfers totaling $25,896.12 as proposed.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Further council comments from the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Valentine.
Aye.
Ms. Gregg.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Rivera.
Aye.
Mr. Soto.
Aye.
And President Reichenbach.
Aye.
And that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Move on to Community Planning Committee. I will do my best to impersonate Councilor Smith-Waddell if I can. There was one item on the agenda for his committee, and that was on the agenda this evening, Administration Resolution Number 43, requesting a grant for the Love Your Block Facade Program. That'll come up later in the agenda, and I think there's some minor changes to that we'll discuss when we get there at that point in the agenda. Last but not least, Personnel Committee, Councilor Diaz.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Personnel Committee met on Monday, August the 5th, and reviewed the appointment of Sue Leckman to the Board of Health. Ms. Leckman will complete an unexpired term. Her term on the Board of Health will begin immediately and continue until March 31st, 2020. I'd like to make a motion that Ms. Leckman's appointment be approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Council comments from the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Valentine.
Aye.
Ms. Gregg.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Rivera.
Aye.
Mr. Soto.
Aye.
President Reichenbach.
Aye.
Mr. President, I'm also, the Personnel Committee also reviewed Council Resolution 40-2019, which supports the principle of the United Nations Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People, which we just adopted. That's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. I guess last but not least, the Committee of the Whole met as well, and we discussed Administration Resolution Number 38, 2019, which we discussed earlier, supporting and approving the resolution supporting the creation of a National Latino Museum. So with that, we will move on to the legislative agenda. Heritage Conservation and Historic Districts. Consider the following applications and recommendations from the Historical Commission and Historic Architectural Review Board for improvements to properties within the Heritage Conservation and Historic Districts. Unless there is an objection, we'll take all three of these at once. Mr. Harris.
Yes, Mr. President. The first is Simply from Scratch. The owner of 555 South Water Street proposes construction of a new one-story commercial building on a vacant parcel, and that was recommended for approval by the Historical Commission. The second is Robert Hess, owner of 49 to 51 Howard Avenue, requests installation of a storage shed visible from South Shippen Street. And the last is Daniel and Laurie Kerr, owners of 113 South Duke Street, requests installation of new wooden French doors on an existing door opening on the building's facade. And those last two were recommended for approval by the Historical Architectural Review Board.
Motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council comments from the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Valentine.
Aye.
Ms. Gregg.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Rivera.
Aye.
Mr. Soto.
Aye.
And President Reichenbach.
Aye. Move on to ordinances for final passage, which will be voted on this evening. We'll start with Administration Bill Number 12, 2019.
An ordinance authorizing the incurrence of lease rental debt in the maximum principal amount of $35 million in connection with the guarantee by the city of the guaranteed parking revenue bonds being issued by the Parking Authority of the City of Lancaster, and authorizing the officials of the city to take all appropriate action in connection herewith. Good time, Mr. President.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Councilor Valentine.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bond Council has provided each of us with a black line version of the ordinance authorizing the incurrence of lease rental debt in the maximum principal amount of $38 million in connection with the guarantee by the city of the guaranteed parking revenue bonds being issued by the Parking Authority of the City of Lancaster. Such ordinance was introduced as Administrative Bill number 12 before this council on July 9, 2019. I hereby move to amend the ordinance labeled Bill number 12, 2019 to include the additions, deletions, and other changes referenced on such black line version of the ordinance, which will be reworded with the minutes of this meeting and which can be summarized as follows. In the heading, to insert the administration ordinance number and administration bill number. In the second line of the heading, changing the principal amount of bonds to be issued from $35 million to $38 million. In the second line of the fifth whereas paragraph, changing the principal amount of bonds to be issued from $35 million to $38 million. In the third paragraph of section 1, to insert the completion date for the capital project as May 31, 2021. In the third line of the first paragraph of section 2, changing the principal amount of bonds to be issued from $35 million to $38 million. In the second line of the second paragraph of section 2, changing the principal amount of bonds to be issued from $35 million to $38 million, and on Schedule 1, inserting the maximum annual amounts payable under the guarantee agreement.
That is the motion. Do I have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second on adding the amendment. Council comments simply on the amendment. From the public? Hearing none, we'll take a vote simply on the amendment, and we'll move on to the amended ordinance. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Valentine.
Aye.
Ms. Gregg.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Rivera.
Aye.
Mr. Soto.
Aye.
And President Reichenbach.
Aye. We'll move right into a vote on the amended ordinance as it stands. Can I get a motion for the ordinance as amended?
Motion to approve as amended?
We have a motion and a second for the ordinance as amended. Council comments? From the public? Hearing none. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Valentine.
Aye.
Ms. Gregg.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Rivera.
Aye.
Mr. Soto.
Aye.
President Reichenbach.
Aye. We'll move on to Administration Bill number 13, 2019, amending the Parks and Recreation Ordinance.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, amending the Code of the City of Lancaster, Chapter 210, Parks and Recreation, Section 210.2, Regulations, and 210.3, Use of Parks and Public Property, Permit for Exclusive Use, to allow the Lancaster Recreation Commission to provide programming involving activities not otherwise allowed in city parks, pursuant to written agreements with the city, providing for the repeal of inconsistent ordinances, providing for the severability of the ordinance, and providing that the ordinance shall take effect as provided by Pennsylvania law.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Councilor Rivera.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill is in response to a request received by the Lancaster Rec Commission to provide a youth archery program in the city park. The Rec Commission determined that the barn building at Conestoga Pines Park would suit the needs of the program. However, the city Parks and Recreation Ordinance specifically prohibits archery except in facilities specifically designed for that purpose. This bill would remove the reference to archery and would allow this program to be held at the park.
That's great. Other council comments? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Valentine.
Aye.
Ms. Gregg.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Rivera.
Aye.
Mr. Soto.
Aye.
President Reichenbach.
Aye. We'll move on to ordinance for first reading. This will not be voted on this evening. Administration Bill number 14, 2019, authorizing borrowing by a bank note for fire station construction.
An ordinance authorizing the incurrence of non-electoral debt of the City of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, by the issuance of up to $9,040,000 principal amount general obligation note, Series A of 2019, the 2019 note, issued for the purpose of providing funds for the 2019 project, which consists of 1, financing related to 2 new fire stations, 2, other miscellaneous capital projects, which may, by resolution of the City Council or in lieu of resolution by enactment of an ordinance of the city in connection with its then current capital budget, hereafter be approved. And 3, paying issuance costs in connection with the 2019 note, determining to sell the 2019 note at a private sale by negotiation or invitation, approving the form of the 2019 note, fixing the date, interest, and maturity of the 2019 note, making a covenant for the payment of the debt service of the 2019 note, pledging the full faith, credit, and taxing power of the city in support of the 2019 note, providing for the filing of required documents, providing for the appointment of a sinking fund depository for the 2019 note, and authorizing execution, sale, and delivery thereof, and other necessary action. Title, Mr. President.
That's just the title. Imagine what's going to take the building, huh? Councilor Valentine, do you have any comments to add?
Thank you, Mr. President. As Mr. Harris mentioned, this bill basically authorizes the borrowing of $9 million to fund demolition and rebuilding of the new West King and East King fire stations. After distributing a request for proposals, city administrators considered 7 bank proposals offered through 3 banks. The winning offer was from Gettysburg-based ACNB Bank with a rate of 2.820% interest for 10 years and variable rate of 3.887% for the next decade. Benefits of this option include estimated savings of $260,000 for the city, in part because of the cap in the proposal, where the maximum interest rate is 5%. The bank note offer was unexpectedly low, especially in comparison to bond rates, which were also under consideration. But those bonds were ruled out as they would still be subject to market changes until the time the bonds are sold, and the city would likely incur maximum interest charges. Also, there's no penalty for prepayment if lower rates become available in the future and the city decides to refinance. Additionally, with a bank note, the city may be able to renegotiate the terms of the loan without going through a refinancing process. In addition, the city has applied for $4 million grant from the State Redevelopment Capital Assistance Program for the fire station project, resulting in an RCAP grant of $500,000 offered thus far, and additional funds will be pursued through this program and existing capital bond funds from 2018 and general fund. Reserve funds may also be utilized for the fire station construction. Anything else, Mr. Poppy?
Sounds good. Thank you, Councilor Valentine. This will be brought up for a second reading and a vote, proposed vote on September 10th council meeting. And I just want to thank the mayor and Chief Little, who's here, and other members of the administration for really taking time and effort, as well as the fire union, to work together to come up with a plan that's really going to be effective for our firefighters going forward. This is a big deal to be able to do this, and the proposed fire stations are going to add safety and security and ability to respond in even a quicker fashion. So it's very meaningful, it's a big deal, and your efforts are appreciated. So thank you, Chief Little, for contributing to that. So we will move on to resolutions that will be voted on this evening. We'll start with Council Resolution number 34, 2019.
Resolution of the Resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, prohibiting the location of video gaming terminals within the City of Lancaster.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Mr. President. Resolution 34, Section 502A of Title 53 gives all municipalities within the Commonwealth the option to prohibit the gaming terminals, otherwise known as VGTs. The legislature amended Title 53 Pennsylvania Consolidated Statute to give all municipalities the option by delivering a resolution of the governing body to the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board by September 3rd. Governor Wolf signed Act 63 on July 2nd.
Thank you. Council comments? I just want to briefly add that we took up a similar resolution maybe a year ago, Councilor Capera, or so, or maybe probably more than that, when gaming was really expanded significantly in the state of Pennsylvania. And I was proud then, and I'm proud now of the fact that we joined every other municipality in the entire county of opting out of having casinos in our communities. And I'm very proud that I hope that my colleagues will vote to support this resolution as well. I believe then and I believe now that gambling preys on the least among us. It takes advantage of people who are desperate, and it's simply not a way to build taxable revenue. It's not the way to go. And I feel like the more and more that this gets expanded, the more the money gets spread out, and there's just different and basically more sinister ways to try to figure out how to gamble money out of people's pockets. And it's not okay. We're not going to do it here. So I'm proud of this resolution being brought up, and I'll continue to fight that fight as long as people listen to it. So if there's no other comments from council, we have any comments from the public? Commissioner Lehman, pleasure to have you here, sir.
Thank you,
May I
President.
just call you Craig tonight?
Just Craig tonight, so.
If you could share your name and address.
I'd be happy to do that. So President Reichenbach and members of council, thank you for the opportunity. Craig Lehman, 200 block of Browning Road, a city resident. So when the gaming law that Councilor Soto mentioned a little bit ago was first adopted, I actually got a comment, a question in my official capacity. You know, we didn't know at the time that county government was not, in Lancaster was not going to have anything to do with deciding about whether or not gaming got expanded or not. My comment was, if Lancaster County has any say in whether Minute casinos get established here in Lancaster County, I'm going to be a no vote, because I agree with President Reichenbach's comments. But tonight I'm not here in my official capacity because I don't believe that it's my role to interfere with municipal government, state government, federal government when there's not a county-related matter. So that's why I'm here just as a resident of the city of Lancaster. So last week my wife was listening to the Smart Talk show, and it was mentioned in that conversation about gaming expansion that the deadline was coming up on August 31st. So I reached out to, and we both agreed that we didn't want to see video gaming terminals be established here in the city of Lancaster. So I reached out to President Reichenbach and wanted to know what was going to happen with City Council. He said, coincidentally, you just had talked about it at committee meeting, and I said, I'd like to be here for the council meeting to lend my support to members of council in the city of Lancaster to making sure that we don't have VGTs here in the city of Lancaster. So I'm really just here tonight to be supportive of what I think you're about to do in a few seconds. And I just want to thank you for your leadership in this area, because I spoke to Mayor Gray today on a completely different matter. He totally agrees, and we both think it's regressive, and I'm hopeful that you do too. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Commissioner. And thank you for all the work you do for the residents of Lancaster City as well as the county. You're appreciated, sir.
Thanks.
If there are no other comments, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Valentine.
Aye.
Ms. Gregg.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Rivera.
Aye.
Mr. Soto.
Aye.
And President Reichenbach.
Aye. We'll move on to Administration Resolution Number 35, 2019.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster approving the sale of the city's forensic evidence vehicle, a 2005 GMC special service vehicle, to East Lampeter Township.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Councilor Valentine.
Thank you, Mr. President. As previously mentioned, Administration Resolution Number 35, 2019 authorizes the sale of the former City Police Forensic Evidence van to East Lampeter Township. After initially exploring and trading in the 2005 van for a replacement, East Lampeter Township Police expressed interest in purchasing the used van for $14,000, which is slightly more than what it would have net as a trade-in. It's brought forth for a vote to council because under state law, a resolution allows the transfer of property to another municipality without going through a sealed bid or auction process. So just to give you a little background.
Thank you. Council comments? For the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Valentine.
Aye.
Ms. Graham.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Rivera.
Aye.
Mr. Soto.
Aye.
President Reichenbach.
Aye. Council Resolution number 37, 2019.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, adopting the 2019 Emergency Operations Plan for the City of Lancaster and authorizing the City Emergency Management Coordinator to revise the plans as needed until the next official review and update of the plan.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Councilor Soto.
Council President, I have nothing more to add than what I had stated earlier.
Thank you. Once again, it sounds like a night of handing out accolades, but the reality is people are doing good work and they deserve to hear it. I really do want to thank Mayor Sirachi for following through on her commitment early on to update the emergency ops plan and to really take it seriously. All we have to do is look at the news every single day and recognize what emergency ops mean to communities and how vital they are. And I had a conversation early on after Mayor Sirachi was elected about her thoughts on this issue, and she was adamant with the fact that she was going to take it seriously and follow through. And it's clear with the work with her and Chief Little and Chief Berkey-Heiser that she's doing just that. So thank you for your help, Chief, again. And it's a big deal, and a lot of it may not be seen, but it's not meant to be seen on the outside. It's meant to be prepared when we need it. So we thank you for that. If there are any no comments from the public, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Valentine.
Aye.
Ms. Graham.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Rivera.
Aye.
Mr. Soto.
Aye.
President Reichenbach.
Aye. Administration Resolution number 39, 2019.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster authorizing the execution of a winter traffic services agreement between the City of Lancaster and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for the clearing of snow and ice from state highways located within the city limits for the winter season from 2019-2020 to 2023 to 2024.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a dual motion and a dual second. Councilor Rivera. Ernie, I'll let you figure out who picked what on that one. Councilor Rivera.
Thank you, Mr. President. This agreement will continue the long-standing practice of the city public works crews plowing snow and ice on state routes in the city. PennDOT reimburses the city for costs associated with these efforts. Agreement covers winter seasons 2019, 2020 to 23, 24.
Thank you. Council comments? From the public? Nobody wants to talk about snow removal in August? Shocking, not yet. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Valentine.
Aye.
Ms. Graham.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Rivera.
Aye.
Mr. Soto.
Aye.
President Reichenbach.
Aye. Administration Resolution number 41, 2019.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster requesting a multimodal transportation fund grant of $1.385 million from the Commonwealth Financing Authority to be used for the Greater Lancaster Heritage Pathway eastbound connector.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Councilor Rivera.
Thank you, Mr. President. This grant will allow the design of the eastbound connector to the pathway. The active transportation plan has shown Chestnut Street as a pathways eastbound route through the city. However, a subsequent engineering study found limiting the roadway by adding a bike lane will create backups for the motors. The grant will fund a study to determine another alternative for the eastbound pathway route.
Thank you. Council comments? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Valentine.
Aye.
Ms. Graham.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Rivera.
Aye.
Mr. Soto.
Aye.
President Reichenbach.
Aye. Administration Resolution number 42, 2019.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster authorizing the submission of an application seeking funding from the U.S. Department of Justice for the FY 2019 Urban Justice Assistance Grant Program.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Counselor Soto.
Again, I have nothing more to add than I stated earlier.
Thank you. Comments from council? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Valentine.
Aye.
Ms. Gregg.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Rivera.
Aye.
Mr. Soto.
Aye.
And President Reichenbach.
Aye. Administration Resolution Number 43, 2019.
Resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster requesting a Keystone Communities grant for up to $100,000 from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development for streetscape improvements.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. We spoke about this earlier. I want to bring up Millsy. Do you have a few words that you want to share related to this resolution? Thank you.
Thank you. Hello again. We actually originally had the resolution prepared for a facade program. Just recently we came into some additional funding opportunities in another facade grant program. So we we're requesting to have the resolution changed to actually a sidewalk improvement grant. So the city would like to apply to the Keystone Communities grant for $100,000. Our original proposal and resolution to you was related to facade improvements. Just recently, we have been informed of other facade improvement funding opportunities. And with this new information, we updated our proposal and changed out our requests to focus on sidewalk repairs. The area that encompasses is the Love Your Block, and the targeted neighborhood is in the southeast, specifically the Howard Avenue street. After canvassing with residents and city staff, we all agreed upon that this is an area for great opportunity and improvement related to streetscape. And so the Keystone Communities Grant will help leverage us that opportunity to start revitalizing Howard Avenue. We have so many Love Your Block grants that are there. We have the community engaged, so we just want to do something to start improving some of those sidewalks that are just not safe. And so I'm just requesting you guys to vote and pass this resolution. I would really appreciate it.
Thank you, Millsy. And thank you for taking the time to be on the ground. Because for years we've had conversations with residents. I know every council member up here has had conversations with residents about the issues with their sidewalks. But how do you find the funding to fix that? Because it's a catch-22. We want people to be safe and we want them to fix their sidewalks. But then again, it's a tremendous financial burden for a lot of people to do that. So how do we figure out a way to get the goal accomplished, which is to make it safe? So you only really get that by walking the streets, and you're doing that, and so are your colleagues. So thank you for doing that. And I'm excited about the prospect of what we might be able to do with that grant. It's great. Any comments from council? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Valentine.
Aye.
Ms. Gregg.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Rivera.
Aye.
Mr. Soto.
Aye.
President Reichenbach.
Aye. We'll move into our second public comment period. That's open for comments about issues that were not on tonight's agenda. I would ask that your duration of your comments be limited to 3 minutes. Is there anybody who'd like to speak this evening on comments not on the agenda? Hearing none. Oh, I do. Oh. Yes, please, ma'am. Come on. No, it's fine. If you could just share your name and your street, it'd be great.
Okay. My name is Sydney Brookmeyer. I own 332 East Orange Street. I don't live there, but it's a 3-unit apartment building. I'm here in reference to the property next door, 334 East Orange Street. This house was sold last fall in October. It had been the home of my neighbor for over 50 years, and it had not been updated in the 5 decades that she lived there. The house was listed for $265,000, and after a bidding war, it sold for $312,000. I toured the home 2 weeks before it was put on the market to see if my husband and I wanted to purchase it, but it required at least $100,000 to bring it up to code and to bring it current. There was no kitchen. My husband's a remodeling contractor, so we had a good idea what it would require. We were shocked to see a permit for drywall replacement go in window. There's no way drywall replacement covered what had to be done there. That was dated November 2018. In December 2018, a contractor working at the property told me he was demolishing the bathroom, and I could hear it as I vacuumed the hallway. I informed Mr. Horning by email that work outside the scope of the permit was occurring. No response was received. The loud demolition continued through the winter, and my tenant started to comment on the noise. In the spring of this year, the owner of 330 East Orange Street approached me to express his concern about the construction debris being transported through the rear yard, out the garage, and onto Grant Street. I sent a strongly worded email to the permit clerk and told her that I would be coming to City Council if something wasn't done. I also reached out to Chief Little because the sewer stack was repaired and I was worried about the natural gas in the property. A new permit was put in the window dated April for extensive repairs, but as we went by 2 weeks ago, you could look in. The floors are completely gone. You can see up through the second floor. There are no walls and no floors. It's a shell of an old historic home, and my home is attached to it. So this person is doing a huge remodel, trying to get away with low dollar figures, so you don't know how much they're spending. And I'm worried it's going to collapse. So I would like somebody to look at 334 East Orange Street. Somebody who is wealthy and well-connected bought that house, and they don't want you to know how much they're spending on it. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, ma'am. If you wouldn't mind, before you leave, if you could just share your contact information with that young lady right there beside you, Millsy, that would be great, and we can make sure we follow up with you on it. Thank you for sharing. Any other comments this evening? Hearing none, I don't believe there's a report of the mayor this evening, unless she wants to do it remotely, like Izzy did. Guess not. Okay. Report of council would be very brief. I just want to say that this is the last month of our pilot of only having one council meeting a month. We started in July, and we had one council meeting, the first meeting in a month. In August, this is one meeting, and we're done. So far, it seems like it's been relatively successful. I know there have been people who've been thankful to have the opportunity to kind of plan their summer schedules around it. It was only a one-year suggestion, so the new council that comes in January will have the opportunity to choose to do what they want. I would just encourage the new council to look at it once again and see if it was something that was worthwhile, and consider the administration officials and council members and the public who are attending, and see if it's something that might be able to be continued. But so far, I think it worked out okay. Other than that, any other council comments?
I just want to take a moment to give accolades to Millsy and her group at the Department of Neighborhood Engagement. Over the past couple of months, hearing all the great neighborhood engagement has just been a joy, and you've taken something that could have just been business as usual and given extension to neighbors and our fellow city residents ways to, beautify their blocks and take care of their sidewalks. So it's been a great initiative. So props to you and your whole department.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other comments? If not, can I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you all for hanging in with us. Have a great night.